80s pop icon Madonna. Now, there aren't many podcasts which start off with those 4 words. She said, in fact, she sang about the fact we live in a material world. Well, I can tell you now, we live in a visual world. We're told every couple of weeks about the time we have to be engaged in a movie trailer or a social media post or an advert just gets less and less and less. There's probably no better illustration of it, dare I say, than dating apps. It's just a picture, and you just swipe one way or the other. And to be honest, all of those attributes that somebody might have just get lost if the photo doesn't work. And that is what we have in the property world right now as well. 95% of people will see your property online for the first time when you put it up for sale. And if the property picture doesn't work, they will swipe the wrong way for you. And even if they stay on your page, they're already thinking that the property is not as valuable as you think it is, or that it's marketed for, because the property photography doesn't work. So that's why when we set up the business, right from day one, we said we will always do professional photography. It doesn't matter how big, how small, whatever condition, whatever price, we will do professional photography. It was just a complete no-brainer to us to do that. And we've used Nichecom for all of that time. Graham's been taking photos for us for 2 years and more now, but he's too busy taking photos today. So I've asked Claire from Nichecom to join me. Claire, welcome to the Sunday Property Breakfast.
Thank you.
That must be music to your ears about the fact that we use professional photography, and obviously everybody that works with yourself is obviously like-minded. Not as many as I think should be, but that's a separate discussion. Before we talk about that, perhaps you should just tell us a little bit about yourself, but also about what Nichecom do for property businesses like me.
Yeah, of course. So I've been working with Nichecom for the last 3 years, but the company's been going for 30 years in total. And we provide professional marketing services to agents. Professional photography is at the forefront of that, and it has developed into incorporating video, 3D scans. We've moved with the market and with the demand of buyers and the consumers. Yes. I was in agency for many years before I joined Nichecom, and when I started in agency, it was a very different...
In Cornwall?
Very different landscape for marketing properties. We would talk about advertising in the property paper and the importance of a window card, for instance. And I always took all of our own photos, and I'm not a professional photographer, shockingly. No. And when we started incorporating that offering to our clients of professional photography, it elevated our listings to no end, and we could see immediately that we were on to the right track with this. And now, sadly, if you don't use professional photography, you are at that danger of standing out for the wrong reasons online.
Oh, for those of you who don't surf these things on the internet, there are a lot of very, very funny Facebook, Instagram pages of bad property photography. I'll say no more, just dreadful things. But it's the obvious one of somebody taking a photo and you can see them in the mirror. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm guessing there's a Nichecom photographer who's done that, but they wouldn't publish it. There would be another photo somewhere of that room. But there's plenty of those out there. Strike to the very heart of what this is about then. Why, I know the answer to this in many ways, but you can give a better answer. Why should an estate agent use professional photography?
In a nutshell, you're giving your client the best advice by asking, what their needs are when they're selling. They need to stand out for the right reasons online.
Because it's visual.
It's visual. Yeah. You hit the nail on the head, really, with the dating app analogy. Our consumers are time poor. They're looking online primarily for their next property. And if those first couple of images don't appeal, they will just move on. Mm. And you need them to look further into those details to make the inquiry to your estate agent so that they can do their job and get them through the door and get you the best price. So having your marketing as prominent and showing off your property in its best light is paramount importance.
And using the dating app analogy, they'll never get to the fact that you've got a degree or that you've got a fascination with, music or something that may appeal to the individual. They'll never get to look at my listing, my 300 words beautifully written about why they should come and view the property, because if they're not engaged by the photo, and it doesn't matter, by the way, how beautiful or ugly, or this could be an empty house. This could be a probate sale with no furniture in it. This could, this doesn't have to be a perfect show house property. Every property, the photography needs to be at its very best level. And I just find it very strange. Our average property value, not our instructions are a little bit higher, but the average property value in the areas we work in is about £600,000. I just find it very hard to understand why any owner would say that it's acceptable at the end of a discussion with the agent where they say, okay, we're going to choose you, that agent would just take photos on an iPhone at that very point. Presentation is something we've talked about a lot, and that's a separate issue, even if the place was immaculate. And even in these areas we work in of quite high value and good agents, there are still people who are doing that. And it's just an anathema to me as to why. Yeah,
it baffles me as well. It's the way I see it is, say you're getting married and you've employed a wedding planner. Yep. You wouldn't expect them to also be the photographer at that wedding. Perfect. You would get a professional in to do that. You
were an estate agent. You now work for a property photography business, but you're not a property photographer. Likewise, talking to Graham, I often say, I'd like that angle. I'd like you to take a view out of that window because it overlooks the green. I might say, can you take a close-up of that period feature, the log-burning stove, or the very modern music system, or thermostats for a hive system? Take those as like close-ups. But actually taking the photo, no. So is the professional photographer the photographer, or is it their equipment?
It's the photographer, but with the correct equipment in their hands. So our photographers are all fully employed professional photographers who specialise in property. So that's also important. They're not fashion photographers that do this on the side. Yeah. They know,
or a wedding photographer who's earning money in the week taking property photos.
Exactly. They know what is needed from that visit. And it's perfect when you give some guidance. Yeah. But they also have an eye for that. They are looking to showcase the property as best as they possibly can using the latest equipment. We've got Sony A7 mirrorless cameras new this year, and they're spectacular. And the range of lenses means that they can capture smaller spaces a lot easier and better than you would be able to perhaps on an iPhone.
So if it's easy when you've got a 15-foot by 20-foot master bedroom. Any camera can probably capture that space, but we've got a lot of cottages in the area. Even bigger houses have got the 10 by 12 study, the single bedroom. So that camera specifically gives justice to those smaller spaces as well.
Yeah, it without distorting the image, makes it more true to what you would see in that room. So it's given us the ability to shoot, say, perhaps a small ensuite, where previously we wouldn't have been able to showcase that particularly well. They will also look for those lifestyle and creative shots because it's important to know that most people are looking at the properties online. They're not looking to buy a house, they're looking to buy a home. So they want to feel engaged with those images and imagine themselves living there. So where you've got the log fire going, it gives that sense of homeliness that you're looking for.
Because it's interesting, the close-ups we do on specification items, as I call it, and the hive thermostat is probably one of the most boring versions of that, but nonetheless paints a picture that says this has hive. You don't have to write 20 words about hive, you've just got it there. But we tend to find those are really good when on our social media posts, when we do a collage of the photos illustrating the lifestyle. On their own, sat on Rightmove, Zoopla and the rest, they can look a bit odd as opposed to the picture of the house and the garden and the rooms. But your team are really good, and Graham particularly is brilliant. Thomas as well, who's started to do some work for me down in Cornwall. Again, it was a fairly ordinary house, 3-bedroom semi, nothing very special. I said, it is what it is, fire away. And about 10 minutes in, while I'm sitting down, waiting to move things around for him if needed, he says, we should do an elevated shot. This isn't drones, this is just basically a big pole with a camera. And the reason being is by taking an elevated shot, we could see the river about half a mile down the road, which because the house was elevated, you could see it out of the windows as well. So just brilliant ideas because he's a professional photographer. Equipment, I won't go into the equipment thing. It's just a given that you have that equipment. I genuinely believe you can take good photos on an iPhone, but you can't do an elevated shot on an iPhone very easily.
No.
I haven't seen one of those, what do they call it, the selfie sticks. They're not really 30 foot high.
Yeah.
That could be a bit interesting as well. And the other thing that you do sometimes come across, which always made me shudder as a homeowner instructing an agent, is when you get the agent who says, John in the office, he's a bit of a camera, enthusiast, and you sort of like slightly wane over thinking, oh dear, this could be dreadful. And I could buy the same equipment that Graham has, but it's the equivalent of me sitting in Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes.
Absolutely.
I might have the greatest car in the world with the exception of Vettel's Red Bull, but don't start me on that one. But it doesn't make me a Grand Prix driver.
No, exactly.
It doesn't make me a photographer just because I've got, all the gear, no idea.
I was just going to say that.
You think, can I be rude enough to him to say that? But you are, because I was going to be rude about myself.
No, they've got the experience, the education as well. Most of them come from a photography degree background. They know what they're doing, and it is a specialist.
It is. We use copywriters for listings. We use, professional. Everybody has their individual job within what they do, because, if you just try to be the master of all, you end up with something that's very generic and very, very dull. One of the problems we've got at this time of year, we were lucky yesterday. Graham took some photos actually of a cottage in Hartley Whitney that's coming online in a few days' time. We actually got that bit of sunshine before it poured. What about conditions and time of year? Would you as a team try to advise on certain things that an agent would do to maximise that?
We are busy all year round. Buyers don't stop looking throughout the year. So if you need to sell your property or want to sell your property, it's paramount that you get on the market as quickly as possible, really. You don't want to miss out on anybody by waiting for the flowers to have blossomed or the trees to have their leaves back. It can be really, really beautiful having a image taken on a wintry day, which is edited with a very seasonal sky as well. Always sunny in Nichecom's world.
It is all sunny, but there is a winter sun.
There is a winter sun and a summer sun. So it doesn't look artificial. It is in keeping with the time of year and the images. And that's when your buyers are looking. They're looking now, so they want to see an image of the property and what it looks like now. And it's a perfect time of year for twilight shoots as well.
And the log burning stove. And all these things, because not every property is at its best in the middle of June.
Absolutely.
One of the things, anybody who listens to the podcast, which of course is everybody out there, I'm sure, and if you haven't, by the way, go back into the back catalogue of them. But we are next, very, very soon, are going to be doing our home selling workshops. And one of the things we've talked about in there for people who are preparing for later next year or even into 2025, we've actually said, if you're going to end up selling in spring 2025, because for other life reasons, that's why it makes sense, because of retirement or children or whatever, get our photographer around in the summer when you can show the summer garden, and we can feature that still on Rightmove and Zoopla. We just say photos taken last summer. So there's no sense of this has been on the market for 6 months. We're just saying here's a bit of a catalogue of what this house can look like at different times of the year. And that's, I just think, a really, really good thing that we can do. Another reason for joining the home selling workshops, everybody. Property videos. We do, I suppose, 3. We do what I'd call a collage video. We take your photos and we do a collage of it, and we put little titles about, 4-bedroom detached, here's the master bedroom, sometimes they have me or Candice at the beginning of them for 20, 30 seconds by the front door saying, this is what it is, come in and have a look at it. Because talking about social media posts, if we post that video collage, we don't get as many hits as we do when there's a human being at the front of it. It's weird. It could be me saying very little, not very well, badly recorded, but we get more people listening or watching those videos than if it goes straight into the other one. with very good properties, typically larger properties where rooms are bigger, we often will do then the proper full-on video, which again usually has a human introduction because it gets more looking. I have a bit of an issue with 3D videos where you jump around. I get a bit dizzy. Do you find that they're quite a good idea, those?
They are, but they tend to be at a different part in the marketing journey. So teaser videos or slideshows, which showcase the images that have been taken, they work very well as a little bit of a teaser.
We see it as a movie trailer.
Yeah.
We don't say this is a catalogue of your property to show to somebody with the utility room, the downstairs loo, the understairs cupboard. This is
a taster.
The purpose of the video is to get somebody to the front door.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the biggest challenge we have in the market right now as well. But generally, once you get people to the front door, you've solved your issues as an agent.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about showing the whole thing.
No, that's a come and have a look. Here's a taster. Have a look inside.
Yeah.
Property videos where it's filmed throughout the property itself. Short, sharp, sweet.
Okay.
Tends to be what we find is becoming more and more popular. So for social media purposes, really.
Yeah.
And again, it's adhering to the needs of the market and the consumer. They want things that are quick and simple and easy to engage with.
I find and I'm not saying that you do these as a business, but I find the TikTok videos where literally there is a quarter second, half second shot of, it's lounge, bedroom, kitchen, bathroom, boom, gone. Personally, I don't know if it's just my age, but I look at that thinking, very exciting video. Can't remember anything I saw of that property. I really better go online and find it because it was so quick.
I think there's a sweet point at around.
Was that an age thing you were about to say?
No, not at all. I think some are maybe too quick, but they're getting the same result.
Are they done to? Because
they're encouraging you to go and have a look.
Interestingly enough, we had our conference at the beginning of last month, and I was on the social media panel, and one of the guys from Scotland said, contrary to what he thought he would ever do within his estate agent, he's a good bit younger than me, he does TikTok videos, and he does these very, very quick ones. He gets like 10,000 hits. I did ask him the question off stage. I said, but do you actually get viewings, and do you think that people actually like the property as a result of it, as opposed to it being entertainment within TikTok? And I think there's a bit of a grey area as to what's good for. I think if I did those, and I'm not talking about dancing on TikTok, but I think if I did those in Hartley, Whitney and Cornwall and Fleet and the surrounding areas, I think they would look a bit odd.
Yeah.
And I think they would look odd, actually, a man of my age doing them, because it doesn't fit within the way Candice and I portray our properties, probably.
Yeah, and I think maybe having something that's a little bit longer, but not to the point where you've lost your audience, where you've lost their attention. So like I say, there's probably a sweet spot at around maybe 30 seconds, which would have a combination of sort of walkthrough with some speed ramping, so giving an idea of the flow of the property. We can incorporate
speed ramping when I'm walking around the house and I get speeded up.
Speed ramped. No, just the camera moving around.
I've seen those ones where I would be walking around the house, and as I'm going up the stairs or walking the path, it gets speeded up, so I'm then at the front door. Yeah. So we've done that.
Most of the videos similar to yours will have maybe an introduction, including somebody, because they are more engaging when there's a person in the video. And then it would be just the property itself, downstairs, then upstairs, and then out into the garden, typically. And then maybe an outro, but something that's short enough to showcase everything, but leave a little bit to the imagination. Not too long, so you haven't lost everybody's attention. They tend to be at the very sort of start process of the marketing of a property, or what we find, to then entice people to look at the further details, the floor plans, the description, and ultimately make an inquiry on that property. With the Matterport tours, the 3D scans, they are used typically as a sort of back-end product. So I'm quite anti them being available online, just fully available, because they show everything. And you might get a purchaser who goes on to have a look at that scan, and they have a look around the whole property, and they've made a decision perhaps that it's not for them and they've not picked up the phone or they haven't made that inquiry.
And my job is to get people to the front door.
Absolutely.
Preferably through the front door as well, by the way.
Exactly. So most of our agents that incorporate within their marketing a 3D showcase, as we call them, or Matterport tours, they will advertise that they have one of these, but they will not put it online, and then they receive the inquiry. And part of our offering at Nichecom is that we have a free virtual viewing platform which is embedded the 3D scans, so you can effectively show people around.
I'm intrigued now. We need to talk about us doing that, because last night I listened to a Keller Williams colleague in America who was talking about some of the home selling workshops. I'm plugging that again, by the way, everybody. She was talking about those, and she uses those videos for the buyer. So the buyer doesn't have to go back and say, what was the window like in the end of the kitchen? Because they just can't picture it, and it's not on the photos. So they can go in, they can look at the skylight size, they can actually save themselves having to go back to the property, not to choose whether they still want to buy it, but to actually check. Forgot what that was like. How wide's the chimney breast?
You can even measure.
Yes. Can you?
Yeah. There's a measurement
we need
tool.
to talk about that as I say, as a post-sale agreed tool, as opposed to, we discussed earlier, the sizzler, the sausage. You're trying to get people interested in it, not to buy it from it. We're not in COVID times where people are having to see the whole house and make a viewing or a purchase almost based on that.
Absolutely. Those virtual viewings they're there to introduce a purchaser to the property quickly, conveniently, but it's not to eliminate a physical viewing. That's the ultimate goal.
Yes.
But if you can show someone around from your desk immediately without having to arrange with the people that live there who might have busy home lives, dogs, children, working from home even, if you can engage with somebody, perhaps they've inquired they're not available to view until Saturday, but you can jump on and quickly show them around the property right now. You can answer their questions so that viewing on Saturday, it's like a second viewing, that physical viewing.
Or indeed, if there is a clear no, I will not, that's a non-negotiable for me.
You've not wasted anyone's
that
time.
Waste of their time. It's not a waste of our time. We're there to facilitate that, but it's not a waste of their time. It's interesting, really, because and these aren't things that you do always as Nichecom, because I yesterday did a 40-second video, me sheltering a little bit from what will look like it was going to be rain, tripod, iPhone, clip mic, just basically saying we're setting up for the open house on Saturday at Golf Cottage. And those weirdly get high engagement. They get better engagement. Coming back to this visual world thing, they get better engagement than the 100 words that I would otherwise have put within the Facebook post saying, we're setting up for the open house at Golf Cottage, please come and have a look at this, it needs modernising. Me, however amateurishly done, however ummed and ahed and wonky camera, windy, noise and all the rest of it, that gets more viewings and more hits and therefore more interest and more inquiries than the text version, or as I say, even the polished version. So it comes back to something that Candice and I have talked about a lot, is she joked about this Mary Poppins bag of marketing materials, and even within the photography video tool, there's about 10 different tools there, of the amateurish Adrian in front of the front door right through to the fully polished, really, video production and everything in between. It's fascinating because they all have their moment or all have their place depending on the property.
Yeah, absolutely.
Drones. We won an instruction recently from another agent after 2 weeks because they had done a very bad job in many ways. But one thing they didn't do was feature a drone photography. Graham actually didn't do those photos because your drone specialist did. Who I think was called Alex, but I may have got his name wrong. But it was suddenly Graham wasn't doing the photos. I said, where's Graham? What's happened? And they said, we've got drones, so in comes the drone man. And they were brilliant because this particular property in Dipley Common was on the end of a track within the woods and the fields. So all around it was woods and fields. There's about 3 or 4 houses and woods and fields. So but the agent hadn't done it.
Yeah.
And we will be doing a before and after, or this is what it was done, this is how we did it. We'll be showcasing that
Absolutely.
And the drone footage was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, we have all of our photographers are professional photographers. So in Graham, they're all members of the Royal Photographic Society. This is what they specialise in. They're all also able to draw floor plans to RIC standard, and they're all EPC assessors. We do have drone specialists as well. So where Graham has been working with us for 20 years, he is not a specialist in drone. So we would bring in another one of our...
Graham originally doing them on a Polaroid.
That's it.
Apologies, Graham, if you're watching.
But we have other photographers who have the drones, and they will come in and they'll do everything within that one visit that you need. With the drone footage, that can be incorporated into internal footage as well. It can be stitched together. So if you do have a property that you want a fantastic social media video, but the location is the selling point, get the drone up, get that footage.
Don't do it on a terraced cottage. In a Coronation Street style terrace. Why would you do a drone?
I mean, there's a time and a place, definitely. I saw a fantastic example of a property. It was a beautiful detached house in a cul-de-sac with very similar properties surrounding it. From the ground level, just an ordinary but beautiful detached family home. Then the drone goes above and you've got this beautiful lake behind. You wouldn't have a clue that was there unless you'd gone above.
And seen it.
That was the selling point of the property, the proximity to the lake. So
it'd be perfect.
To not showcase that is you're doing a disjustice.
And again, I think whether we're currently in a market which is much more of a seller's market. For most of the early parts, a buyer's market, much of the earlier part of my business, it was very much a seller's market, shortage of stuff, huge demand. That's now flipped round, and it's even more important that every little bit of what we do on marketing, the listing right up, the quality of everything we do is really key. But I think even when that market flips back and moves around as it will, you are still getting more viewings, more people, more interest, and you ultimately will find the better buyer and or a better price.
Absolutely.
And the two are equally important. It's not just the price. Everybody thinks it's the price. No, it's the price and it's the buyer. Is it somebody who I think, this person's going to go through it. They're not going to mess you around with a bit of a survey issue or a bit of a time delay. They're committed. They want to buy it. And those things are really, really important as well. One last topic, and it's probably something that other people watching this may be threatened of within their industry. And it's only really just occurred to me, AI. Within our industry, we will never... I don't think, the day this gets replaced is the day we're probably not human beings anymore, but you will never be able to replace the individual doing a viewing, the individual doing an appraisal for an owner and discussing the very personal reasons why they're selling, what they're looking to buy, their children, their divorce, their parents passing away, all of those things that go into the sale of the property. I'm thinking as well that although we're now seeing AI generated imagery, I saw one the other day of a unicorn kitten. I knew I'd get you laughing at some stage. And it was just, this is what AI can do. And it was like, whoa, this is just weird stuff. How do you feel it could affect your industry going forward, the whole, AI, the way it's going? Do you think you're in an artistic environment which you could never really replace?
You wouldn't be able to replace. You couldn't replace Graham with AI. You still will need that person going into the property, that human element, that eye for the photography that's needed to showcase that particular property. I think that AI is more of an exciting tool, certainly in our industry.
Why is it exciting in your industry?
Because some people need help with their imagination. And if we've got a property that we're instructed to take photographs of or a video of, and that property is completely bare, it's a vacant property. I know from when I was in agency, walking into a property to do a viewing, sometimes you had to set the scene of how that would service that person moving in, how that would make a home for them. And with AI, I think it's going to be a lot easier to paint that picture. So we already offer digital staging to our clients, where if we've taken images of perhaps a vacant show home before it's been staged, we can put the furniture in there, we can put a bed into the master bedroom, we can show the viewer this is what it will look like when it's ready, and they need that.
Do you think you could get to a situation where almost as a live function there is this reception room where you could say make the carpet this colour, walls that colour, contemporary furniture, get rid of that 3-seater sofa, make that a 2-bed and a 2-seater sofa there, and really do it boom 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 live quickly like that? Do you think? I'd
love that if we're doing them, that'd be incredible.
We're doing the virtual staging ones where I say, you just get a generic layout, which in usually works actually, and paint the walls an off-white and just show this usually probate property, an older property with maybe quite bold coloured walls. But I'd love the idea that you could sit with somebody who hasn't got vision and they're looking at this empty space, lime green painted, which is a specific property, and you look at it and go, oh yeah, I quite like that, but I wouldn't have my furniture laid out like that. But instead of having to go back and then redo it, and then a day later, here's the other photo, live there, rejigging the photo almost visually, almost as if they had the pieces in front of them. Can you see that's the way it could go?
I would love that if
it could go that way.
Yeah, if it went that way.
Yeah.
The important thing, obviously, to us is to get that initial image and get it from the right angle with the right lighting, the correct editing, so that when we are staging it, or if we get to a stage where you can do that, it is going to be as like for like to how they could have that property when they move in.
It's a great question for me to ask Karen at Renaissance, who did the staging one, a previous podcast we did about staging, presenting. And again, her human element of the touch and feel of fabrics will never be replaced by the complete, automation of these things. So I'm glad we're in a creative industry, which means that, the human element will last as long as I remain as a living human anyway. Claire, thank you for that. One of the things I love about doing these podcasts, most of them are people I want to bring in to tell people your specialism, and most of it I knew because we talk and we deal with these things. I see Graham every other week or a couple of times a week to do photos. There's always things that come out of these discussions that I didn't think about and didn't know about, and some of them I think about just before we talk, some of them I think about in the middle of it, or you tell me something that I think, it hadn't really occurred to me. And that Matterport one was a good point, because I don't like them to sell the house, but I can see its absolute value to somebody who's buying it.
Absolutely.
As the revisit. So thank you for that. Thank you as always for listening and watching to the Sunday Property Breakfast. Thank you again, Claire, for great insight into photography, videography, and just the whole presentation of properties, which is so crucial. We'll see you again soon on the next one. Thank you again. Take care. Bye.
Hi everyone, Supergirl here, and I am a super fan of SMJ Media Group. They provide support for local businesses, charities and events, and of course create fun content for all of you. If you enjoy our content and would like to help support us, please go to buymeacoffee.com/SMJ Media Group and buy us a coffee.